In our last lecture of supply chain analytics, we discussed about the basics of supply chain analytics, how supply chain analytics you can say have an influence on supply chain management, what sort of interaction it is between them. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss about the basics of, if I could say, supply chain management, which deals with the supply chain analytics, how it has been influenced in that one. Prerequisite for that one, as a if you are registered in the course of supply chain analytics, that we have already done the operations management, logistics and supply chain management concepts, sourcing and material management concepts, and mathematical and statistical modeling. The objective of this course just to understand the basic concepts of operations management, logistics and supply chain, research, operation research and mathematical modeling, and application of supply chain concepts into analytical framework, as well as material management concepts into an analytical framework. So we can start with the basics of supply chain, or you can say the basic supply chain model. If you can identify in basic supply chain model, the organization is you can say the Walmart or third party you can say distribution channel. So here how the organization is sourcing all these things. So at the upstream and the downstream to the customer, and upstream sourcing with different supply chains from the suppliers. In this particular case, the granules of chemical manufacturing, which has been sourcing from one particular you can say source, and plastic producers, and that has been coming through the you can say source by the Procter and Gamble or other manufacturer in this particular case. Similarly, on other end, you can say find it out the packaging material from the timber company and paper manufacturer, and then which has been sourced by the Pactive Corporation, and that it comes to the Walmart. Walmart is stored, and then up to the customer. That is the basic, you can say, the model of supply chain. Next, if I could say how it has been replicated in real life, how the supply chain model in real life looks like. So if you can identify here, the product is a laptop. So suppose the laptop is a particular product, so which is manufactured by any particular organization. And so upstream and downstream, if you can identify, at upstream the raw material sourcing up to the you can say the manufacturer, or you can say the assembler, and at the downstream you can say it reaches out up to the customer. So different sorts of supplier tier 1 supplier is there, and a tier 2 supplier over there, with different channels, raw material suppliers 1, 2 and 3. So different raw material suppliers are also there. And then the in laptop, the component like keyboard, which has been sourced in, and keyboard needs plastic granule to manufacture that one, and plastic granules comes through the you can say the crude oil. So in that way you can have the broader, or you can say upstream supply chain, each and every aspect of you can say the material which is required over there. Later on, at the downstream, which you can identify here through the wholesaler to retailer, different retailers, and up to the end customer, it has been reaching it out. And if we talk about the component, so from the laptop, it is a computer wholesaler, and then it stores and up to the customer. So in that way, you could understand the thing. If I could, you could say, elaborate further, or the meaning of supply chain management, or if you could unravel the supply chain concept, demystify the supply chain concept. So in that way, we could say it is the management of a network of interconnected business that you can involved in the ultimate provision of product and service packages required by end customers. It spans all movement and stores of raw material, work in process inventory, and finished goods from point of origin to point of consumption. So if you can find it out here, it starts from the demand, then source, make, deliver, and use. So these are the different components or different stages over there. If at the demand side, you can say find it out. The channel start from the channel strategy, product characteristics, service levels, market types and dynamics, integration level with the customer, and predictability to transparency. Source from the demand to source supplier and product characteristics, integration level with the supplier, and sourcing channel options you can identify. Make or manufacture, technology and capabilities, knowledge and skills, cost characteristics, logistics network, and geography. So these are all the you can say elements include over here. Then move on to deliver, packaging, transportation alternatives, direct or indirect delivery. Finally, you can say when it reaches up to the customer, so return stream, spare parts, life cycle, environmental sensibility. So these are the things which you need to deal with. Okay. When we move on further, so in that way, how the supply chain management, you can say, addresses the needs of the, you can say, dedicated chain from the supplier up to the customer. So that is the one aspect. And what is the objective of the supply chain? What is the ultimate objective of the supply chain? If you can identify here, supply chain, it is related to, you can say, the supply chain surplus. So supply chain surplus is there, and then customer value minus supply chain cost. It is the difference between between the customer value as well as supply chain cost. Supply chain cost, you can say, which is the cost which you can say a kind of expenditure which organization invest in, and the customer value which the organization gets in by delivering services. So if so in that way, if you can identify the difference between that one, this if the customer valued your services, it means the maximization of this one and minimization of cost, and that will give you the surplus. So in that way, you could identify the surplus means maximization of customer value and minimization of supply chain costs. So in that way, that will maximize overall value which has been created by the supply chain. In terms of, you can say, the concept of operation research or optimization. The types of different types of supply chains are there when you deals with when you delve in further. So you can identify there is a producer, distributor, wholesaler, and retailer. So before producer, if I can say, there is a supplier. So you can say, you can identify there is a supplier. So supplier to producer, and producer to distributor, distributor to wholesaler and retailer, and through the retailer up to the customer. So here the customer and the you can say the supplier. So that sort of movement is you can say the serial based supply chain or serial supply chain. Okay. And then we have the Davinci 14 principle to inculcate total quality management. How the things, the main focus is on the involvement of the top management, employee engagement, as with the customer. So that is you can say moving around from create constancy of purpose towards the product quality, refuse to allow commonly accepted mistakes, stop depending on inspection every time to achieve quality, use fewer suppliers selected based on quality and dependability, instill program for continuous improvements, train all employees on quality concepts, focus supervision on helping people do a better job because while doing so, the individual can understand that one. Eliminate fear and create trust. So you should not inculcate fear psychosis. Eliminate barriers between different departments and encourage joint problem solving. Eliminate the use of numerical goals and slogans to make workers work harder, and use a statistical method for continuous improvement in spite of slogans and quality and productivity instead of numerical quotes. Remove barriers to pride of workmanship, encourage education and self-improvement, and finally, clearly define management permanent. And after this discussion, you can understand the things related to the supply chain management, the basic architecture of supply chain management, and these are the things which you can understand. References, or you can say any bibliography, if you can understand, go through the Chopla Mendel, Shapiro book for the modeling of the supply chain, or all these things which you can identify. Thank you.